lines.
Yeah, yes, I would. I mean, I did write a book about an evil boy called A Boy Who Kicked Pigs,
Yes.
which sells very well in Golders Green. But and that was really a villainous boy, and it's several people have tried to turn it into a script. I think actually I do have a kind of slickness about being silly, but when I compare the people who move me deeply, like a modern novelist, you remember the thrill when a new novel like Herzog would come out, or Humboldt's Gift, and we would worship Saul Bellow. But I think, and John Updike, a great man. But Philip Roth, for us, surely, that stream of bestsellers, of American Pastoral, I Married a Communist, Sabbath Theatre, that wonderful power and fearlessness as he creates characters and situations raises him almost to godlike status. I love everything he writes, even these small ones that are coming out now that get hammered. I'm not as brave as that, Finally, you see, like a waiter that I am, really, I'm a professional pleaser. I don't really like offending people because it's pitiful, really. I want to be loved, and I suppose why I go 30 years onwards, going through the Doctor Who routine, is that worship and that love is available, and I take it, to be.
But you like that. You like power and force and energy. We were talking about people like Roth, but I think you've mentioned in the past people like Christopher Hitchens, those sort of people who are rumbustious and almost enter the fray.
Yeah. I mean, I adore Hitchens' aggression, his barefaced, brutal aggression about, being, a crusading atheist. I love it the way he doesn't seem to care, does he? That quality of not caring, when it's coupled with such eloquence, really thrills me. That quality, I used to kick around in Soho in the days of, my salad days of all that money and all that thing, kicking around, to be seen with Francis Bacon, who didn't care about anything. Of course, life had no meaning at all. I when I was drunk with him, I got on well with him because someone was giving him a terrible bollocking about his obscene paintings. And to defend him, I said, well, I think they're rather pretty. And Francis found this convulsively funny, and it took me into his little coterie. And wonderful ne'er-do-wells like Jeff Barnard and people like that, they thrilled me. I just...
Because they were living on the edge a bit, they were...
Well, and they didn't care, and people would say, some people would come at the Coach and Horses and say, Francis is on the piss. And there'd be a frisson in that corner, Because, first of all, the ne'er-do-wells knew perfectly well Francis picked up all the bills. He used to carry a lavatory roll of 50s, and he was extremely generous and amusing. And Jeff Barnard, I was with Jeff Barnard when he had pancreatitis, and the doctor said, and he was in a terrible state of illness, and the doctor said, a nice doctor, the Middlesex, said, Jeff, could you knock off the vodka? And Jeff's eyes filled with tears, as if someone said, will you betray your country? Oh, no, Christ, he said, no, I couldn't give up the vodka. And the doctor said, well, maybe you could cut it down a bit, Jeff. And Jeff's eyes then filled utterly with tears, and he said, no. I've been with Sally Smirnoff too long to give her the elbow now.
Oh.
And Sally Smirnoff, who'd killed his dick, who was killing him, had become the great substitute. It was an incredible transference of affection that finally the pain of deprivation, the pain of doing without Sally outweighed his fear of death, And I liked that. I thought that was eloquent.
But you've lived that. I mean, you always strike people as forceful, as strong, and as dominant, and a lot of that comes back to your voice, because you know in a way how much your living has depended upon your voice, and I'm never quite sure where that voice came from. I come from Liverpool, but because I was lower middle class, we always were told not to say grass and to say grass. But you had none of that. And this is a voice which comes from you, but yet it's... What do you think about your own voice? You regard it, you hear it. It is one of the most well-known voices in the whole of the country for commercials or for Little Britain.
Yes. Yeah. And the amazing thing, it's quite shameless of me, really, because I have a capacity, to be absolutely sincere about things I don't believe in, which I guess is the is the kind of trick of the performer, isn't it? I don't know.
Commercials, because you've made a great deal of money out of commercials, haven't
I have
you?
done thousands of them, yeah. Actually, that's changed. I used to do commercials about engagement rings and lingerie and things like that, which I used to talk very softly, and beds and things like that. But now, as I've grown older, my voice is really cracked now, and maybe I'm better known, or people employ me because of my coarseness in the studios. But now I do second-hand cars, in East Yorkshire and things like that. But I do still do dramas, BBC recordings.
But I hear commercials, and somebody says, "Oh, that's Tom, isn't it?" And I say, "No, that's a Tom impersonator, because
right.
your voice is so well known that there are, as it were, sub-Toms
Yes,
who
there
come
are.
in.
Yeah,
There aren't there? You must be aware
people
of that.
say, that's right, people say they can do a Tom Baker or whatever. Well, that's fair enough. They get on the... I mean, in a way, a rather abject bloody career as being an impressionist, isn't it? And they always seem so fantastically dated. When people actually... Fellow said, have you seen his impression of John Wayne? And you say, John Wayne? But I said, yeah, I mean, I saw Christopher Benjamin do a fantastic impression of Julius Caesar. And you think, God, what's the world coming to, But somehow we respond to that, don't we? People doing impressions. You used to do a very good impression of Malcolm Muggeridge. And now people would say Malcolm who?
It's like John Wayne, really. It's even worse than
But he was a great entertainer in his day, wasn't he? And to do that.
But I've heard you also have, I've heard a recording, it must have been some sort of little bootleg thing of you in a commercial getting more and more angry at what you have to put up with. I mean, I don't think many people quite know what you have to do when you're doing a voiceover. I mean, it can be quite absurd, can't it, the way you've got to repeat this daft slogan and message over and over again.
Yeah, well, I think that's true, when they don't always know what they want. But however, if someone hires me, they know what they're going to get. They're going to get enthusiastic bad taste. And of course, that was reinforced by Little Britain, and marvellous lines. I actually suggested one they wouldn't use, because even in Little Britain they had one, but I was trying to make you laugh about that wonderful line in the start of Little Britain, Yes, and then we come to fat people. Now, what do fat people do in the summer? I'll tell you what they do. They smell. That's what they do. Now, when I do these conferences, I used to say, and so I'd have to say sincerely, and so we're saying goodbye to Gary Mitchell, our finance director, and we wish him well in the future. He's been great to be with. That was the way it was written, After Little Britain, I was entitled to say, and so we've got to say now goodbye to Gary, our finance director. Christ, he was a good boy to go cruising with. Oh, blimey, I've come all over Jism. No, that would have got me the sack before Little Britain. After Little Britain, I had the imprimatur to be in bad taste with people who are afraid of it, because no one wants to concede he's got no sense of humour. And so Gary would say, what did he say about going cruising? They say, it's a joke. Oh, he'd say, oh, yeah. Yeah. Tom was great to go cruising with as well. So, you go along with what they want, really.
But that was, those... How did Little Britain come along? Because the senior people... By the way, did you give up? I can never remember whether you gave up Doctor Who or just you got sick of it.
Yes,
Or
I did.
they...
I gave up after a while because I got fed up with the new producers and the way it was going. But Little Britain happened. You see, now I'm mostly employed by the children who watched me as Doctor Who. And so Matt Lucas and David Williams loved me when they were children, you see. And so when they were on the radio writing Little Britain, and they needed this kind of silly man who was obviously so thick and so reactionary that he was funny. That was it. It was a good idea. And so they said, let's get Tom. And so they invited me along, and there were these two young men, and they said how much they'd watched me as Doctor Who. And so now I'm mostly employed by people who watched me as Doctor Who, and that's interesting, isn't it?
The impact that you had upon children, upon all